I guess there's a new update when it comes to Onyx. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, very recently Onyx, they talked about a recent update that happened to the Goliath testnet. And by the way, in case someone is wondering, Goliath is their layer one blockchain. It's not the mainnet yet, but it is the testnet. However, allegedly now it supports multiple languages. Like for instance, we take a look at English, French, I take a look at Italian, Japanese, Spanish. There's a lot more. And again, they do post this, right? So again, there's a bunch of languages that are now available when it comes to this in terms of what they support. However, also on top of that, they even say that when it comes to Dutch, it's coming soon. So I find this very cool and very interesting. And in case someone may be wondering, I have actually family members who live in the Netherlands. So yeah, just overall, I think what Onyx is doing is pretty cool because supporting multiple languages, I think this does bring more of a broad approach when it comes to Goliath, right? At least it's layer one blockchain. Because if let's say they didn't really care about this type of stuff, maybe the notoriety, maybe the exposure wouldn't have been the same. Granted, though, regardless of what they're doing as of right now, the notoriety and the attention when it comes to this is just not the best. And I think it's largely in part to, first of all, because XCN is around 54 times lower than 25 cents. I think that's one of the reasons. Another reason is because I think the altcoin space is not doing the best. So when I take a look at all of that, of course, this type of stuff, at first glance, people may be thinking, why could this even have any sort of more attention for something like this? But then actually in the long term, we have to consider what this could do when it comes to it. So I think stuff like this really does indicate to me at least that Onyx still cares, because a lot of other projects out there, they treat a launch just as a for fun type of thing, as just something that they do just to kind of create attention. But this one, it doesn't seem to be the case. It feels like they're actually treating it seriously. There's no way for me to fully evaluate what this could be though, because they have not launched the mainnet. And also on top of that, even if they do launch the mainnet, sometimes in some cases, right, mass adoption could take quite a while. Sometimes it takes many years. Like, take a look at VeChain, for instance, right? If we take a look at, let's say, the VeChain Tor blockchain. Ever since 2018, zero network outages, but many people would still consider that it does not have mass adoption. And we take a look at its track record ever since 2018. You know what I mean? So when it comes to something like this, only time will tell, and it could take quite a while. But it doesn't necessarily need mass adoption in order to do something, because if we take a look at VeChain, for instance, was the adoption the best in 2021? No, but we saw what happened during the altcoin season, right? Was Algorand having the best adoption back in 2021? Arguably, I don't think so, but we saw what that did. So when it comes to this, I don't think it necessarily needs such a massive scale of adoption in order to hypothetically kind of showcase something to Onyx. But this is just my perspective. And I don't think it really needs to have, right, the best adoption anyways, if let's say there was an altcoin season, because sometimes what I've realized is that during an altcoin season, I've seen a lot of my friends, they don't really care about kind of the adoption. They care more about kind of the story, the narrative, and kind of what something could be as opposed to what it already is. So when I take a look at something like this, I like the story. I kind of like kind of the concept, I guess, behind something like its layer one blockchain, because the main argument that a lot of people like to tell me when it comes to this is that there's already something like the Stellar blockchain. Why would they create another one, basically, that's kind of like focused on the same niche as something like Stellar, or should I say the Stellar blockchain, right? What is it really doing that's different? Now, I don't think it's necessarily reinventing the wheel, but at the same time, does it really need to be that different? Like, for instance, if I take a look at Algorand and as well as VeChain as projects, right? Are they necessarily that drastically different? Well, I guess VeChain has a different focus, but if we consider the aspects of blockchain technology, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's entirely so different. But then I guess sometimes it doesn't really matter, because if we take a look at it, there's many car brands in the world. There's like BMW, there's Mercedes, we take a look at Rivian, right? We also take a look at something like Cadillac. I mean, there's a bunch of brands out there. There's not only just one. But if we take a look at it, they're cars at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So when I take a look at this space, for instance, I don't think it's only just going to be one thing and then the rest don't really do anything. My kind of mindset is, so what, right? If there is like, I guess, a better sort of option that is more kind of established. Let's say in the case of the Stellar blockchain, at least from what I can deduce as of right now. But at least they're trying, I guess. Like, I don't think it's ever going to overtake the Stellar blockchain, by the way. As much as I am a fan of Onyx as a project, I'm also like hypothetically in this mindset where I have to be realistic about as to what maybe this could do for the project, right? It's not going to make it like suddenly more impressive than like XDC or something like Stellar. This is just my perspective. But it doesn't really need to anyways, because in my sort of perspective, something that XDC and XLM does not have right now is a market cap that is below 200 million, in which case XCN has that. But then at first glance, that may seem like such a positive thing, because it's like, why would that be something I would even talk about, right? Well, it's because in theory, the lower something is, couldn't the ceiling theoretically be farther away? You know, if I take a look at XLM right now, market cap is in the many billions. If I take a look at something like XDC, it's not in the many billions, but it's still way bigger than something like XCN. You know what I mean? Now, granted though, I'm not only just holding XCN, right? I also still like Stellar, I also still like XDC. But at the same time, kind of my perception is that this has a lower market cap than both of them, right? In which case, I'm not necessarily saying I'm only going to care about this, but this kind of showcases something to me that I think something like XDC and Stellar doesn't have, or should I say XLM, which is a project that's focused on global trade and finance, but then with a significantly lower market cap. This is just my perception. The way I take a look at it is this. In a totally different example, in a make-believe scenario, let's say 10 is the maximum level, right? And let's say in one instance, one level is like 8, the other one is like 4. The distance that they have to reach 10 wouldn't be as much as something that is like a level 2. You know what I mean? So in theory, this level 2 could still, have this sort of room. Does it mean it will? Who knows? But assuming 3 of these examples, right, at least did something, the first 2 I mentioned, they're already kind of close to 10. This one, reaching that level, still a bit farther away. So this is just my mindset, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. And here's the thing as well. When I take a look at something like Onyx, kind of my reaction is, okay, I get it. Things aren't really doing much as of right now. Things have been trending downwards for quite a while now. But I'm still staying patient, because as of right now, many projects out there that I see have reached a new all-time low, which may not seem like such a good thing, right? But I'm seeing basically levels for some projects, not in this case right now, but I'm saying like some projects out there, which have surpassed their previous all-time low, in which many of them achieved it back in 2020 or around 2021. So many projects out there that I see are lower than where they were before that 2021 type of altcoin season. Like for instance, I saw a project called Polkadot and its native token called DOT back in October reach a new all-time low. And that's Polkadot I'm talking about, right? Arguably one of the most popular layer 0 blockchains. Some people may say it's the most popular, who knows, but I'm just saying. And that reached a new all-time low back in October, so we're talking about basically 2 months ago. That's pretty fascinating for me to see, because my intent is the dollar cost average. If something is lower and I actually want a dollar cost average, would I complain? I don't think I would, right? That's just my perception. It's like in a totally make-believe scenario, in a different example. If I want to buy a jacket and it's like the lowest it's ever been for whatever reason in the store's history and I actually like it, would I be complaining? You know what I mean? This is just kind of my perspective. I don't think I would at all, actually. However, even besides all that, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. I'm just still staying patient, holding. And yeah, I just wanted to make this updated video because Onyx, they did announce a update, I guess, when it comes to their layer 1 blockchain. So yeah, I wanted to talk about it, and I hope you all have a very nice day.